Hey everyone, this is Jennifer Beamer, owner-operator of ExpertlyDyed Art by Science, and in my hands right now is the Cora Shawl. So if you go to my website, which I will link to below in the description of this video, I have a free shawl pattern for beginners using commercial spun yarn or even your own hand spun yarn, which is what I have here. I have a little bit extra. This probably had about, I want to say 550 yards, 525, 550 yards for this shawl. You can certainly make it longer if you want. I wouldn't recommend going too much shorter. But anyway, this video is supposed to be a companion video to the shawl so that you understand how I did this shawl. So if you want to reproduce it in the same way, you can. But it's a very simple shawl, so if you want to add your own little flares to it, that's fine too. Anyway, so in this first video, what I'm going to talk about is this garter stitch border. And garter stitch is basically on one side you knit, on the other side you knit, so it forms like this ribbed fabric right here, which you can kind of see. And then the second thing I'm going to talk about is how I make and knit or purl a yarn over. So here in the center, this is in one place where you do an increase. So you can see I have a center stitch and then I increase by making a yarn over on each side. And then I also did that along the edge here, which you really can't see as well as you can with the center stitch, but every time I did the knit 2 on the end, I did a yarn over. So if I got to the end of the row, I would yarn over and then knit 2, and that would form this border here. There's like a small opening right here where I did the yarn over. But like I said, it's easier to see in the center stitch here. Okay, so let's start with the little sample I've got here. So basically I just did the cast on, which is 7 stitches. I've placed my markers, which are really big for this project. I have smaller ones, but I figured they were going to be a little bit too shiny and distracting for this video, so I'm just using the plain plastic ones. Alright, so let's see. So I'm going to get this started. So I just basically knit a couple of rows. So this is still the very beginning. So knit 2. Right? Now, for the garter stitch row, you don't want to pull this very tight. Normally when you start a row, you'll want to pull these first two stitches very tight, but what will happen is the fabric here, this part, will get really scrunched up, and what it'll do is it'll start making your shawl curve like this. Okay? And that's not what you want to do. So you're going to have to knit this border, the first couple of stitches, you're going to have to knit those a little bit looser than you would normally, like for a scarf or something like that. Okay, so I did my first 2 stitches. So they're a little bit loose, and that's totally fine. It's kind of what you want. Okay. Now, this is how I do a yarn over. So I take the yarn, if I'm on the knitted side, right, I'm going to do all my knitted stitches. If I'm on the knitted side, I'm going to yarn over from the back, circling over to the front, and then bringing it back to the back. Okay, one more time. Let's get that off there. Okay, so I have my 2 knitted stitches. Right. I'm going to hold this, wrap it from the back to the front, like that, and then I'm going to keep knitting as if I had never put that yarn over in. Okay? When you first start with a shawl, it's going to be a lot easier once you just dive right in, and then it just gets to a really long point where you're knitting stockinette for a couple hundred stitches before you get to do something interesting like a yarn over. Okay, so and then in the pattern I've knitted all these stitches. Okay, now I'm before a marker, so I'm going to do the same yarn over, right? I'm going to slip that marker over. I'm not going to knit that marker. When I first started knitting with markers, I accidentally knitted these a couple times. Don't do that. Knit your center stitch, like that. Slip the other marker, and do another yarn over. These yarn overs with the bigger markers, it's not a big deal if you don't have real small markers for smaller size needles. I'm trying to keep this in frame. If you have these, I think are just the standard size, or like one size fits most type thing. It's totally fine. It's going to be just awkward at first getting used to them, but the yarn will sit close to the yarn, or to this marker, so it'll be okay. Don't worry about that too much. Okay, so we did our yarn over, and then I'm going to keep knitting to the end of the row, well, almost the end of the row here. We're going to knit to the last 2 stitches, and then we are going to do another yarn over. Okay. Now, because on the purl side you do a stitch increase after the first 2 stitches and before the last 2 stitches. Okay, so this is the yarn over my finger is on right now. Right, this is the yarn over from the purl side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to knit in the back side of that loop, like that. So I'm going to knit through the back loop. Alright, and then I'm going to do my yarn over, like that. Okay, I'm going to knit these last 2 stitches. Remember, keep these a little bit loose so you have your border here is not going to pull the fabric and make it curl. Okay, so let's do the purl side. So yarn overs, they were like the bane of my existence when I first started knitting with them, because I didn't know where to put the needle to make the stitch. So hopefully this is going to be very useful for those of you who are starting out and you want to make something pretty like a little shawl. Okay, so remember to do the first 2 in garter stitch. So this is the purl side, so these have the purl side facing me. So I'm going to knit these 2 stitches like this. Alright, now because we're on the purl side, the yarn, we're going to have to bring it to the front first and then do the yarn over from the back to the front, so that we can have the yarn available to do the next purl stitch, which is the yarn over that we did on the knitted side. Okay, so you're going to have like this long looking stitch right here. You can see that. Right. What I do is I use my opposite hand, my first finger here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this up over the needle so that I have a little bit of room to put the needle in. Because if I don't do this, it's going to be really hard. I feel like I'm going to be a cat chasing my own tail. So I use this finger to help pull the yarn over to the front so that I can easily stick my needle through there. And then I'm going to purl it just like I would if it was a normal stitch. Okay, then I'm going to keep purling till I get to the stitch marker. Now remember, on the knitted side we're going to do yarn overs at both ends and by the center stitch, but on the purl side it's only going to be at the beginning and the end of the row. Okay, so this side is a little bit easier to see the yarn over because the stitch marker is here, right? So we're going to stick the needle up in there like that, and then we're going to do the yarn over, or sorry, we're going to do the purl stitch, slip the marker, do a purl stitch, slip the marker. And now remember on the first one that I did the yarn over, I had to use my finger to pull it up so I get my needle in there. Purl that, and then we're going to purl to the last 2 stitches. Try to keep an even gauge or tension so you get a nice gauge. Alright, this last one, same as the first yarn over stitch we had to do. I'm going to pull the back part of the yarn up towards the front so I can stick my needle in there, like that. Gonna knit, or purl, gosh. Try not to mislead you here. That was definitely a purl stitch. Okay, now instead of doing this yarn over like we did in the beginning where you go, where you have the yarn in the front and then you yarn over from the back to the front like this, I do it the other way because my next stitches are going to be knitted. Okay, so the next two stitches have to be knitted. So if I did it like this, what I'm going to do is I'll have the yarn going over the top. I'll have the yarn going over the top of the needle like this, and this is not what I want to do. So to do this final yarn over, you're going to do it as if you were knitting, like you were on the other side. So I'm going to take this yarn, put the yarn in the back, wrap from the back to the front, and then hold it in the back again, and then I'm going to knit these last two stitches. Okay, and then you have successfully done 2 whole rows, complete with yarn overs. Okay, so you can, oh man, these needles are really long, but they have to be because let me tell you, this needle, I think it, or this, yeah, this needle has like 29-inch long, I think it's like 29 inches long. Anyway, you're going to fill it up with stitches. So it's important that you have a nice long circular needle. You could do it on straights, but it would be stressful, I think. Anyway, so there you go. This is the start of the shawl, and you're basically going to be doing these 2 rows until you get to just about 17 inches. The last little bit isn't going to add much, maybe half an inch, maybe an inch to the final length. So yeah, so if you like this video, please subscribe. If you want this shawl, remember I'm putting the link below in the description so you can go there and download the pattern, and it's available for free. So if you have any other questions that I didn't cover in this video or that I will cover in the next video, please let me know. Thank you for watching. Bye.